Had a really interesting coaching call the other day with one of my clients, and this question came up that I'd never really considered before. And that question is, what is the difference between confidence and charisma? And that's an interesting one because I think so often they get confused, and I believe they are two very different things. And as someone that worked in sales for 10 years, I've got a pretty good idea of what confidence looks like, what charisma looks like, and how the two actually differ. So this video today is really to just talk about the difference between confidence and charisma, and how it can apply to your life. Because I think a lot of people will try looking for tips to be more charismatic and how to come across as more charismatic. And the deeper question, the thing that they're really after, the thing that they really want, is confidence, not necessarily charisma. But they believe that learning to be charismatic is a pathway to confidence. And while I think it can be, I don't think it's the fastest, and I don't think it's the easiest. So I'm not going to go too much into like how to manifest real like confidence in yourself. If you guys want more of those videos in the future, let me know in the comments. But I just want to talk today about the difference between confidence and charisma, because if you are on this journey of trying to build confidence in yourself, you'll really need to start by understanding what that difference is. So I guess like the easiest way that I can describe charisma is it is like a mask that you can put on. When you think of charisma, you think of charismatic types, people like James Bond, that is smooth and charming in a way. And confidence is something that is much deeper. It is at the core of who you are. It is a belief that you are worthy in the world, that you are worthy of happiness, that you are worthy of success, that you are deserving, that you are appropriate to life somehow. And I think that you can have charisma without having confidence, but I don't think you can have confidence without having charisma. And I'll dive into a little bit more about what I mean by that. But having worked in sales for 10 years, I think the reason why salespeople specifically get a bad reputation is because they have learned to be charismatic. And I think that's because true confidence is actually a pretty rare commodity. I don't think there are many people. I think if you took an average of 100 people, probably 10 of those would have a true, unshakable core self-confidence, core self-belief. And then another 50, 60, maybe even 70% of those have simply just learned coping mechanisms and techniques to make them appear more confident, which is charisma. And in the world of sales specifically, you are rewarded for being confident. If you come across as confident, if you believe in your products or your services, then other people will believe in your products and services, and therefore you can sell them. But if you don't have confidence, and if you are not prepared, if you're not self-aware, if you're not prepared to do the work to yourself to grow that self-confidence, then you can put a band-aid on it, which is charisma, which is learning these techniques. And you see this quite often with salespeople, is they get a bad reputation because you instinctively know, I think humans by nature have this kind of bullshit detector, and for some people that's stronger than others. But for me, the type of selling I used to do, I used to go into people's houses and demonstrate the product that I was selling. And there was probably a majority of the salespeople that I worked with on my team were charismatic but not confident. They were able to go into people's houses and kind of put on this like shark smile, and People can pick up on that. People can feel that you want something from them. And that is why I think salespeople get a bad reputation, is because actually deep down they're not particularly confident. They don't believe in their product or service, but they are having to put on this layer of charisma on top of it in order to make the sale and to make a living. And if you've ever worked in sales, you'll know that if you don't have a core sense of confidence about you, it is inevitable that you will have a bad month or two where your sales are not going to plan. And those that operate on charisma start to doubt their belief in themselves, or more that their low self-confidence starts to come to the surface. They start to believe that their lack of sales says something about who they are, or more to the point, proves what they think they already know about themselves. And this thin veneer of charisma starts to wear off. Whereas the salespeople that had a real true core self-confidence understand that there is nothing that they are doing wrong, and that sometimes you just have months like that. January, for instance, is a classic example. You know, Christmas is finished, New Year's is finished, no one has got any money, and it is inevitable that you will have less people purchasing your goods and services. That is just an inevitable part of the sales cycle. But for the salespeople that had low self-confidence, they believed that their lack of sales was saying something about them. So charisma is a mask that you can put on, and that mask can be, I guess, easily taken off if you have a low self-confidence. And I mentioned earlier about how you can have charisma without confidence. I've just explained that. But how can you have confidence without charisma? Am I saying that right? Yeah, I believe so. I think it's all to do with authenticity. For instance, if you have a job interview to go to, this is a pretty classic one for a lot of people. They have a job interview to go to, they are incredibly nervous about that job. It means a lot to them. They're very dependent on the outcome of that interview. And you've got two options at that stage. You can either try to put on this charisma, this veneer of confidence. You can try to come across as someone that is competent, that knows what they're doing, that deserves to be in the room. But if you don't really feel that, then it's not going to take a huge amount. It's only going to take one question from that interviewer to knock that mask off. And suddenly you are exposed, I guess like a turtle that's had its shell removed or something. Whereas the other option is you can walk into that interview and explain to them that you're really nervous, that actually you've been up all night preparing for the interview, and that this opportunity means a lot to you, and that you're quite anxious, and you hope that they will give you some kind of leeway, and you will eventually calm down, but you just need some time. And I can almost guarantee that if that interviewer is a half decent person, that they are going to respect you far more for being authentic and honest than for putting on this kind of false mask. And the other problem with putting on this false mask is that at some point it can't stay on forever. So at some point you are going to be demasked. And so if you get a job on the basis of putting on this veneer of charisma and self-confidence, you are basically then saying that for the rest of your life, while you are in this particular job, that you are going to have to continue to wear this mask. And that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. It's a hell of a lot of pressure. The same is also true of relationships as well. I think when you first get in a relationship, there is this temptation to see the best in the other person, but also to show the best of yourself to that person, and to not show them all of the inner workings and the ugly parts of you. And while I don't condone at the beginning of a relationship you spill all of your mental health woes or anything like that. But I think there needs to be a process where you do build a relationship. But at some point, fairly early on in that relationship, when you feel like this could be going somewhere, if you want to continue having a healthy relationship, you will have to show all parts of you, not just this veneer of charisma. Because otherwise, and I think this is where a lot of relationships go wrong, in the beginning, two people are trying to be the best versions of themselves all the time, and then inevitably at some point they end up spending a lot more time together, something goes wrong, or maybe they move in together, and you just simply cannot wear this mask of charisma all the time. And so the mask starts to slip, and suddenly the person sees a different version of you that they hadn't seen before, and it's not what they signed up for. And the person that they had made a decision to be with is suddenly no longer there, that there's this other edge or element to them. So how can you have confidence without charisma? Let me refer to my notes here, because I feel like I'm getting this entirely wrong. So I've written down that you can have charisma but not confidence, as we've covered already. But it is difficult to have confidence and not charisma. And that is going back to that point of authenticity. If people appreciate authenticity more than they appreciate some thin veneer of charisma. And so the ironic thing is that by being authentic, by showing the parts of you that maybe you try to hide before, people will actually be closer to you, and you will get the result that you are looking for by trying to put on this layer of charisma in the first place. You can have charisma for sure. You can put on this veneer, you can put on this mask, you can pretend to be outgoing or charming or interested in someone, but that mask at some point is always in danger of slipping off, whereas a true core sense of confidence is unshakable. If you really believe in yourself, if you believe in what you're doing, if you believe that you are worthy of happiness, of a good life, of having good friends, of being treated respectfully, if you truly believe that, then that's not something that can be taken away from you. The other thing with charisma is that it requires a third party to be a judge of it. You cannot label yourself as charismatic. And that's another interesting point, because it requires, I think anything in our lives that requires validation from a third party is subject to damage, is subject to being taken away, is subject to weakening us in some way. And so if you believe you are charismatic and then somebody seems to really dislike the way that you're behaving when you've got on this mask, it goes to show that it is not based on a foundation of core confidence. It can be taken away by somebody else through their judgments. If I was to look at someone and say they're charismatic, and I'm not saying that there is an issue with being charismatic, but I was to look at someone and say they're charismatic, that is my judgment of them. And someone else may find that that same person is charismatic, is an arse licker, for instance. Everyone's going to have a different opinion on that. So if your core sense of worth comes from your charisma, and that charisma can be judged by a third party, it can be taken away. And if your core sense of confidence and belief comes from that sense of charisma, and that can be taken away from someone, then in essence your confidence can be taken away by someone. Core confidence cannot be removed. What I also see from having dealt with or met probably tens of thousands of people in my life is that what really connects people, which is what we all want at the end of the day, is connection, is a sense of authenticity. We want to know that we are seeing the real, true version of that person, because when they are prepared to be vulnerable with us, we are prepared to be vulnerable with them. But one of us has to make the move first. So in the instance of that interview that I was telling you about, by going in there and just being honest, just saying, look, I'm really nervous about this interview, like it means a lot to me. and I've been up all night studying the company, or I haven't been able to sleep last night because this opportunity means a lot to me. Same as when you get into a relationship, after the first like couple of months, you know, start to like show some sides of you that maybe aren't, or maybe you don't believe are truly lovable, that might get you rejected, and give the person the opportunity to appreciate and to eventually love all parts of you. Because if they can't do that, then your relationship is not based in reality. It is based on some fantasy. It is a Hollywood relationship, and then you've just got the constant stress and burden of having to maintain this caricature that you have built of yourself. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. A lot of the people that I work with at the moment seem to be, at the core of it, they come to me with all sorts of problems, but at the core of it, what they're really looking for is a deep sense of confidence. Because when you do have that, it is much easier to go about life, to live life, because you believe that whatever decision you're going to make, you will make work. And if it doesn't work, you have the confidence in yourself to change it. So a lot of the work that I do at the moment seems to be based around confidence. And I just wanted to kind of unmask the difference between confidence and charisma, because it so often gets confused. And having spent 10 years in sales, I've had a good experience of both, of charisma and confidence. And I've formed these kind of thoughts, I guess, and I hope by sharing them they were useful for you. So if you want to dive deeper into this kind of stuff, if this stuff kind of interests you, if you want to build this like core sense of confidence that's not dependent on other people, and to start really like living a life on your terms rather than other people's, you can find out more about working with me one-to-one using the link in the description. I hope this video was helpful as always, and I will see you in the next one.